Next one. Well, this is about this. I thought over the years I've made many presentations about cow protection, but I thought I would try to generate a bit of momentum, if I could say. And so therefore this is about expanding Goshala. I had a thought, one time I was reading the, I can't recall now, one of the, anyway, I was reading a book and he was talking about money. And he said, you can't just hold on to money. If you don't try to increase it, it dwindles. So I thought that it's not enough to have a cow protection project if you have one, because if you want it to be sustainable, you actually have to grow it. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that and try to, kind of create some appropriate text. So this is a beautiful site here, Krishna milking the cows. This is our, this is what we inherited when we became devotees. Cows are important to our society. And even we read that there is the Surabi, she is just like there's a whole lineage of, Radharani and her expansion. So similarly, cows are an expansion of Surabi. And we hear that there's actually cows in the heavenly planets. There's cows everywhere. Even now on the earth we find Indian cows or boss zebras and boss taurus. Is one a cow, is one not a cow? But they all function, is a yak a cow, holy cow, but they're all cows. They all give milk, they produce ghee, and that ghee can help with for your sacrifices. So here's an ideal picture. You see Krishna milking the cow, Balaram milking the cow, and the calves are still waiting. So there's this relationship between the cows and the calves, that the calves get milk and the cows and the humans get milk. This is our message, because obviously now that a lot of people are reacting to animal welfare and they're giving up drinking milk because they think it's not, maybe we shouldn't be drinking milk as humans. But actually our legacy is that milk is for humans. We are also the calves of the cow. We have an equal right to drink that milk as the calf does. We want the calf to get its share. Okay. There is a great need here. There's a growing unfulfilled need to increase milk capacity from cow protection. This part of Srila Prabhupada's mission is not given sufficient action. I say action because every devotee has talked about cow protection when they give a presentation. Every leader in our society will talk about cow protection. But we have to give it action. We have to give it a practical shape. So this has not been done sufficiently. Some devotees are doubting we should be drinking milk if it's not sourced from a cow protection herd. A few years ago we had a debate in Europe about whether to drink milk or not drink milk. Not drinking milk is not cow protection. Having cows and protecting them is cow protection. Go raksha means you've got a cow, it's a go, and it's a raksha, you're protecting it. So not having cows is not cow protection. So I just say that so you don't mix the terms. By not drinking milk, you're not practicing cow protection. You're just not drinking milk. That's your choice of the diet. It's like saying the ocean is a great place for cow protection because no cows have been slaughtered. But there's no cows there. Cows mean you have them and you protect them. Practically all ISKCON farms are not producing their own milk. This is extraordinary. This is actually, I heard from a leader one time, this is his comment about why he had a particular stance about drinking milk or not. After so many decades, almost 50, was indicating hardly anything or any capacity. Of course, there are some initiatives now where that is being addressed. Practically no devotee uses milk from protected cows. Protected milk is such a rare commodity that even devotees can hardly drink it. You can hardly find it. And here's something. If we don't do it, who are we looking to do it? Who else is there on this planet who is able to actually protect cows till the very moment? We heard Maharaj speaking very wonderfully about this, the relationship to actually nurse a sick cow. That's part of cow protection. If somebody else does it, we will be ashamed that we did not do it. This vegan kind of wave is creating, you could say, a blip in the marketplace. That people are trying to fill it in different ways. Oftentimes, what I've experienced so far is that when they make an attempt to cover this market, they cheat. At some point, they don't actually save the cows to the last moment. They end up killing them. This is what we're seeing. But somebody will do it. Somebody will work out the formula. I mean, there are ways you can do it. So when we don't do it, we'll be ashamed that we did not. This is what ISKCON has to offer the world, because we're meant to be doing it. Okay, next slide. Here's something in 2013 that our ISKCON leadership declared. We deplore the slaughter of cows and regard it as completely unnecessary for the dietary requirements of human society. We commit ourselves to a future when ISKCON's self-sustaining communities and/or slaughter-free farms are able to provide the milk requirements of our ISKCON communities and projects. The leaders also clarified our preference will always be a lacto-vegetarian diet in accordance with the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. There was a discussion, there was one discussion about whether we should go vegan, we should continue drinking milk. We had a whole. What was interesting at that particular meeting, the ISKCON European leaders in 2013, not a single leader said that they would stay as they were. If we start talking about health issues about milk, then we should buy better milk. So suddenly everybody decided, okay, we're no longer going to buy milk from the store, we're going to buy organic milk. Somebody decided we'll buy milk from a local farmer. Not a single person decided to stay where they were. Everyone wanted to do something. So now this is 5 years later. But this declaration, as far as I know, not a single new Goshala has been created as a result of a declaration. So a declaration itself does not bring you cow protection. We must put things into practical shape. Can we have milk from protected cows? Sorry, we can have milk from protected cows if we are willing to pay its natural price. This is one of the fundamental things. You can have milk from a protected cow, but you're not going to pay 50 pence a litre for it, or 50 cents a litre for it. You're going to pay £3.50, £4 a litre for it. This is the first obstacle. Cow protection milk is not the cheapest milk in the marketplace. It is the most valuable milk in the marketplace, and it has a price that reflects the way that you produce it. So more or less, when you do a study, you come to these similar figures. Recently I was working with Siddharami, we'll hear more about his project tomorrow. You come to similar kind of figures. You calculate the hay, the straw, the labor that goes into it, the longevity of 16-year projections. You come to similar kind of figures. £3.50, £4 a litre. If you want it delivered to your door, you have to pay extra for it. This is a major issue. As a leader, once you accept this pricing, you think, okay, how much milk do we want? Are we willing to pay at that price? There are people who will help with cow protection. If you don't pay people, you don't get people. Even interesting, yesterday at the Global Eco-Village Network, they were saying the same thing. Your core people, you have to pay them. You have to maintain them. So if a Goshala to be sustainable, you have to have a sustainable model to protect the cow protectors. So therefore pay them. And you can see the Goshalas in Europe that have secure, stable Goshalas have some system to maintain the people. So it's not a new thing, just expand it. There are people waiting for the milk, even if the temple is not willing to pay the price. It's extraordinary. We are producing milk that even we don't want. I can't afford that milk. But there are people waiting. For example, you can see, I will tell you, he's got 1,000 people waiting for his milk. A list of 1,000 people waiting for it. So we are meant to be producing our milk for ourselves. If we decide that we can't provide, we don't want it, then make a facility for other people to have it. Create this kind of revolution of providing milk from protected cows. There is money that can be raised for cow protection. There's no shortage of money for cow protection. In our midst we have Pradeep, who's like a magic man with cow protection milk. He kind of tripled the kind of income from cow protection. If you talk about cow, you say in a certain way, people will give you money. Cow protection is non-political. They may not give to the temple, they may not give for a project, but they will give for cows. You just have to ask. Again, 1,000 people, they're paying like £10 a month to become members of the Himsa Dairy Foundation. There's money out there. So there's no shortage of people who want the milk. There's no shortage, I would say, of people who are willing to help you with your cow protection as long as you pay them. There's no shortage of money to fund the Goshala because people will give you money for it. Sustainable definition for this study means economic. It doesn't have to be self-sufficient, that's our goal. But we should talk in terms of sustainability. How can we keep it going? So it needs to have some kind of economic model. Actually, interesting now, we're working with Kalikanta, we're working on the certificate of readiness. where part of it is 16-year projections, budgeting, first year, second year, third year, fifth year, 10th year, 15th year. Show yourself that you can maintain this gauchella 15 years. The breeding schedule, how is your herd going to increase? You project it over 16 years, how many cows you're breeding each year. Social. If you want stable people, you have to make them stable. And environmental, how many cows are you going to breed? You can't just breed any cow because it's a cow. You have to schedule it. You have to make it in a certain sequential way. Okay. Growing gauchella is a healthier gauchella. The gauchella needs a kind of visionary body to kind of look to the future. Because sometimes the people on the ground, they can't look to the next level. They're so wrapped up in what's currently happening. You see with people overseeing a gauchella, they're pushing, okay, you said, what next? How can we grow it? And I'm saying static is likely to stagnate and shrink. And if you look around, you'll see that gauchellas that are not trying to expand are shrinking. Need for cow protected milk is a massive market, hardly scratched. Temporal projects have huge unmet need. I mean, for example, I was at the manor for many years, and Srila Prabhupada said 150 cows. That is 100,000 litres of milk project. And when you analyse the milk consumption in a manor, it comes to around 100,000 litres of milk. So it is, Prabhupada said 150 cows, it has some kind of connection with the community's milk need. Sitaram reckons that about 7%, only 7% of our devotee community will pay the price for milk. But still, that's quite a big number. Of the 1,000 people waiting, 500 of them are devotees. And again, who else can give you cow protection milk apart from devotees? Only we have a philosophy that is going to say that killing a cow is wrong. Okay. £3.50 a litre. £3.50 a litre. If you want cow protection milk, you can have it. But don't think 50 cents or 50 pence. Think £3.50 a litre. Am I willing to pay that for the price? If you're willing to pay for it, then you can put the kind of infrastructure in place to produce milk around that kind of price. Another thing is to kind of protect the cows. If there's no milk, you need a membership scheme. So maybe people pay something by membership, and that gives them the right to buy the milk at a certain price. But you have to kind of still comes that same kind of figure. Fundraising for capital investment. So the gauchella will get lots of money, but maybe that money shouldn't be just used for running the gauchella. Maybe you should use it for capital investment, expanding, buying more land, buying more buildings. Put that kind of mechanism there to help it grow. As I mentioned, don't just plan for this year, plan with a 16-year projection, 15 years. Average life of a cow? What's the average life of a cow?
20 to 25.
If you put everything in place, based on real statistics, it's about 16.25. You take into account calf mortality, some cows will reach 22, 23, most cows leave about 18. So it's about 6, so for as a tool for projection, 16.25. Okay. Cow protection means cow protectors. If you look after somebody, they're likely to stay. If you provide them with no facilities for themselves, how can they stay or go somewhere else to find the things that they need? So protect them, protect the cow protectors. Volunteers can help, but they should not be your major people. The major people you're dependent on should be people that you can depend on them, and you can depend on them because you're maintaining them. Grihasta, they stay, they're stuck, they're stable, they stay in a house, they don't move many people, move very far. Brahmachari, they move, they're wandering, they're traveling. So build your gauchella on grihasta, on that kind of focus of people who are stuck in a place. And I put here, people pay £10 an hour. Make it possible for someone to live in a kind of reasonable way. So £10 an hour. Enough people in the schedule to reduce stress. If someone's milking the cows 7 days a week, there's no let up. So it's just practical management. Put things in place, how it can be done to sustain the people. Okay. This is what grihasta, a cow needs grass. A man needs a house, he needs a job, he needs a place to raise children, he needs to accumulate wealth, he needs to have social interchange. If you don't provide this for a person, the person will go somewhere else for these things. So this is what you have to put in place to keep the people involved with your gauchella. Next one. And then this is an idea, how you say about environmental sustainability. You have to make a plan. Are you going to have all the land for your cows, you're going to grow everything for your cows, or will you just have some of the land for your cows and buy in hay and straw? That's what sustainability means. It means you have a plan to make it sustainable economically. It doesn't mean you're self-sufficient. Self-sufficient is a very, very lofty goal that we're aspiring for. We always talk about it in terms of food. When you talk in terms of medicine and clothing, you're really struggling to get anywhere there. Building ox dependency in farm systems. It's a very important part of it. If you don't give a role for the ox, you won't use the ox. The ox are ready for working. In fact, anyone who's worked with them knows that an ox is a happier ox after a working day than it wasn't working. So you have to build it into your farm systems, and again, have a scheduled breeding over 16 years. Summary. We must have expanding cow protection projects. It's part of it. Who else are going to do it? Expansion is limited by how much milk you're willing to pay. It's a financial. This is Vaishya domain. Gorak Shivani and Vaishya Karmas for Bhavan. This is a house that Greek has to make Vaishya make their money by marketing milk products in different ways. Security personnel comes from paid people. There's a great social interest in milk from protected cows. As we can see, we cannot even cater to that natural demand out there, but at least let's try. And a huge potential to raise capital money for growth. Every Goshala knows that. Every Goshala in the manor raised £2 million for a state-of-the-art oak barns. There is money out there. It's got to package in a certain way, present it. And another thing is most farms already have the basics in place. They just need the direction and help with all the steps how to move forward. I think that's it. Okay, any questions or comments? So let's have. So we can keep around the side of me, I think, so I don't over time.
You say 1 acre per cow, that's just for grazing. What also for silage and so on and so forth?
That was simply to, if you want to be sustainable but not self-sufficient, then you're making a call how much basic grazing land you're going to provide for your cows. The rest you're accepting you have to buy in hay and straw.
But if you had enough, how many acres would you need if you were able to mow your own hay or get hay?
Depends how you feed them. The manor we were feeding 10 bales of hay, which is about an acre and a quarter. And we also give them 15 bales of straw for their feeding and also for bedding. Now if you grow straw, that's like 3 acres of wheat you're growing, as an example, to get that amount of straw.
So that's one cow over a winter needs 10 bales of...
Well, we used to find practically that if you just give cows hay, they get fat, because we're not impressed. So therefore, to kind of keep their weight down, we used to give them some straw. I think that's probably still a practice at the manor, I think. So straw and hay was a good balanced ration we found. Milking cows, you have to be more careful, but we just give them more mainly hay. Any other thoughts or questions?
What's the easiest cow to start with? One of what you were saying to me, the Highland cow is very easy because it eats anything.
I'm not sure which book it is, by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says you want to get cows that are beautiful to look at, they produce lots of milk, and you get docility. So these 3 things are factors there. Beautiful, you want good working oxen, and you want milk. So you have to take into effect the milk capacity of that particular breed. There are examples around Europe where people just got a cow. It was a nice cow, it was kind of a traditional cow, but it wasn't a milking cow. But we want milk for our society, so you have to give that consideration. Do you want rich milk? Then you might go for a Jersey. Do you want lots of milk? You go for a Frisian. If you want something that's going to nice, for example, if you want to see what I'm saying, if you go to the hipster farm, you find the Frisian bulls, thin, gangly, tall. Then you get the other breeds, chunky, stature. So if we want a balanced breed, a breed that you can think about, well, we're going to work these oxen, what are we going to do with them? We want cow that gives plenty of milk, and you have to kind of have a very practical view. If you want a pet, you get anything. But if you want to be producing something for your community, and also make a statement, what are we trying to show the world here? That we're just keeping a particular novel breed, or are we trying to show them that be practical? We want cows that produce milk.
What is the law in the UK regarding common grazing? And for example, there's a lot of land just on hedgerows or by the sides of country paths and roads.
Since foot and mouth, the laws have changed. There's a very tight rules about how you can move your cows from your field to someone else's field, and you can all kinds of official legislation. So you can't legally put your cows along the paths. So it's best not to consider that as an option. Something you may do it, but you can't legally do it.
Can you explain a little bit more about the concept of membership?
As soon as you have a Goshala, people are going to come to you, I'd like to help your Goshala. So you have to have some facility to harness their charity. In some places, for example, I think that famous big Goshala that some of the temples get their milk from, you can't buy their milk unless you become a member. And also membership enables you to subsidize the kind of facility of the milk to some degree. So membership, I mean, one practical issue is, if you're producing milk and you're maintaining your Goshala on the milk price, what happens if there's no milk? Suppose there's a disease, suppose there's some kind of infection, you can no longer sell the milk. So you need some kind of economic model that will at least maintain the Goshala on some kind of funding. So having a membership is an important part of that. And also, what the money that comes immediately out of your pockets, you notice. But if you've already paid a membership that allows you to buy the milk, then it's kind of not quite so impacting. So I think membership is probably a very practical tool. In fact, now in the Hymns Dairy Foundation, which you'll hear tomorrow, it's an essential requirement. You can't buy their milk generally unless you're a member.
In Croatia, 1 liter of commercial milk costs 10 kunas, which equals closer to 1.4 euros. And I buy in my hometown, I buy a liter of milk from raw milk from we can say organic farmers for 5 kunas, which is double the rest of price. How comes that there is such vast difference in price in between a Himsa milk that you mentioned and a commercial milk?
Well, they're just killing everything. With a herd of, if you're breeding 1 cow a year, then you may be able to milk that cow for 4 years from that 1 calf. So you're going to have a certain number, and what about all the oxen? So let's say for a herd of 16, you're breeding 1 cow, you have a herd of 16. Only 4 of them will be giving milk. The rest are calves, or dry, or workable, or retired. So it's like only 1 productive cow to 4 non-productive cows, if milk is what you're measuring it by. So that's the main reason.
And what kind of academic qualification and training do devotees need to have if they're interested in taking up cow protection?
If you want to milk a cow, hands. If you want to manage a Goshala, you have to run it like a mini business. Be clear about it. 16-year projection. Interestingly enough, we're actually formulating we discussed this yesterday, about creating a Goshala managers course, which we're projecting having in America for next year, where then you're forced to, part of the training is you're looking at it from a 16 years perspective, and there's a whole bunch of criteria. Actually, we talked about this thing called certificate readiness that Kalakanta's promoting, that before you can start a Goshala, you have to show that you can actually do it, which means budgetary analysis, again, over 15 years, herd growth over 15 years, milk projections, where's that milk going to go for, what kind of land management are you going to have, what kind of facilities are you going to have. It's all common sense, but to milk a cow, anyone can do it. To drive an ox, anyone can do it. But to manage a Goshala, you need to have common sense and treat it like a business, and don't have it completely dependent on volunteers, because that should be shown to be unsuccessful. So we're putting, the minister's putting in courses to help with it, and also putting in documentation to give you the tool to think about it. Actually, if anybody was interested in it, and actually this kind of presentation is to stimulate this thought, then the tools that we already have helped worked on, then they could be used as to kind of show you that you can do it, or show you how it can be done. So the kind of message here is, if you've got a Goshala, expand it. At least make a plan for expanding it. Even don't expand it, at least make a plan to expand it. How would you expand it? If you haven't got a Goshala, think about, well, how can we have a Goshala? How do we do it sustainably? Or how can we help someone else with their Goshala?
Do you think we could have a Goshala in Scotland with what we've got just now?
Yes, you can. I mean, obviously, I've already submitted some thoughts how you could do it. And this, you've got 10 acres, you already have some facility, you already have quite a lot of infrastructure. The kind of measurements you want, well, how many cows, how much milk do you want? And then how much additional facilities around it do you have? As long as, at least in England, as long as your farm is within 10 miles of your core farm, you can walk your oxen backwards and forwards without going out to the kind of legal transportation issues. So you've got a 20-mile diameter to have additional land. As long as your kind of pulsating heart can be any size really, and then the rest of the facilities you can put around it. So definitely you could do it. One time when I was at a manor, we only had 7 acres of land. I was making this plan how you could have 20 cows on 7 acres. Of course they weren't grazed, they're going to be, you know, zero graze and bring in all the hay and straw, but just kind of get the ball rolling. But very quickly after that, we got an additional 20 acres of land. Very quickly after that, we got another 40 acres of land. Very quickly after that, we got another 20 acres of land. And then we got another 15 acres of land. So at this, when you start thinking about it, suddenly Krishna starts providing the way forward.
What kind of support government provides for these?
Pardon?
What kind of support the government provides? Is there anything?
Well, anyone in the UK, in Europe who has agricultural land gets money just for having agricultural land. It's like £100 an acre. That's the support that you get. In fact, a lot of farmers, what they grow just covers the costs of the actual growing process, and the subsidy is what they make their living from. Someone else?
I heard there was 2 different kinds of milk, like A1 and A2, and the milk from Jersey cows and the Indian cows is more digestible than the milk from the Frisian cows. Is that true?
The little study I've done about it, it's not clear, from my view. But for example, Sitaram does try to sell A2 milk because that's what his market wants. So he's catering to his market. But one of the arguments I've heard is that it was basically a nice marketing ploy for certain farmers, I think it was in Australia, to sell a certain type of milk, and therefore they've been successful because it's kind of captured in the imagination. You may find a similar thing, well, what about milk from a Western cow? Should we be drinking milk from a Bos Taurus, or should you only be drinking milk from a Zebu? These are also kind of similar kind of questions that people have. But it's, you know, and another, because I remember many years ago I read a book on Ayurveda, it says that milk from a black cow is subtly different than milk from a red cow, and subtly different than milk from a white cow. So there's all these kind of subtleties about milk. But it's all milk. So you can, if you want an A2, get an A2. If you want A1, get an A1. I wouldn't get hung up on these things. Somehow that, let's get cows. Any other thoughts, questions?
Talking about the importance of continuing to grow the herd. Also historically, you know, herds have gotten too big, and that's obviously if you do it intelligently. But what do you recommend when you get to that point, whether financially or your manpower or land or whatever, you're restricted, you can't continue to grow?
And buy more land. The devotee community is growing like this.
But I'm
What's the
saying there are
question?
other
Can you
things
repeat
that
the
are
question,
not
please?
always about land. You know, I mean, lack of manpower is a real issue, or finances, you know, can be a hindrance. So.
You may have to repeat that again.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
It's always positive. Is it what?
How much time do we have left?
that there are other factors that are real struggles. I mean, even lack of manpower can be an issue. It's not always about land or, you know, the finances, if they're just not there. You get to a point where, at least even just temporarily, you can't continue to grow. So my recommendation is that, or my question is, what do you recommend when you get to that stage where you're limited?
Generally, where we hear stories where our ISKCON gold shellers grew is because they were not making 15, 20-year projections. They were breeding cows like anything, and Chris is going to bail us out. And therefore suddenly they've got a massive herd, 450, 400, 500 cows, and not the kind of right infrastructure in place to deal with it. But what I'm proposing is that you make it, you do it with common sense and logic. You're planning forward. So you plan how many people do we need. In fact, one of the tools of the certificate of readiness is a detailed labor analysis. Even whether it's a volunteer or a paid person, you have to put it in. This is going to take this many hours. And then one of the assessments is, what is the balance between key people being maintained and your dependence on volunteers? If you depend on volunteers, they volunteer today, they don't volunteer tomorrow. So you can't build a gold sheller solely on volunteers, but they do play an important part. So if you do come to the point where you reach your limit, then just make a plan. How can we go to the next stage? What does it mean? And maybe it doesn't mean you're doing it there. Maybe you're doing it somewhere else nearby. And in terms of people, generally, I mean, I heard the other day that one time someone was running a project and there's only 5 people left. That's always a possibility. But usually householders don't just stop. Even if they don't like to do something, you have to do it for economic necessity. So I think that if you put in a financial package for people, you're more likely to keep them. And certainly you have something to offer another person to do it. There's always a flexibility. Even with Finhorn, it's like 10% moving on each year. So that flexibility will always be there. But as much as possible, you can make it stable by putting in natural building blocks. Housing, provide, you know, that Prabhu Panubra, he said, build a house, build houses, and people will go there. So you provide housing, people can go there immediately. You provide schooling. We heard, you know, for the Whitlow community, he had a school, that was a central point. So he has to put the kind of social things into place.
The other consideration is that at some point your supply is going to exceed your demand, especially if you're in a very rural location where there's just not that sort of, you know, progressive, forward-thinking interest in terms of cows and health and all that.
I think in America you can freeze it and post it. So that's one way of dealing with no local supply. I think in this country it's a little more, not quite so clear whether you can freeze milk and post it. It needs kind of working on, because they're scared. The Environmental Health Office, they deal with frozen dairy products different than kind of chilled dairy products. So there's some obstacles to overcome. And that's why people would put things in cheese. Sometimes, you know, farmers in probably Scotland were kind of you turn their cows into cheese and you can post it. So you have to find some practical individuals doing it as a business model. The planning has to be, well, what happens when we've given up, when we want to retire? What do we hand over to the next person? So I think that, I can indicate, you need some kind of overriding organization that can create the continuum, that they can carry on with that legacy, at least for 15 years till the herd passes, you know, kind of moves down, or kind of gradually passes away. So you have to, that's the key, and this is why many organizations who try to do it, they don't put that in place. So when they've given up, they just sell the cows and don't broadcast it. When they sell the milk, it's slaughter-free milk, but they end up slaughtering their cows. So you have to think, what happens when I want to retire? How can I ensure that these cows will be protected for the rest of their lives? So yes, put these things in place. Therefore, some kind of higher body than just the people who are just making the money from the milk.
Hare Krishna, Mangalaya Devidasi from Villa Vrindavana, Italy. And my experience there is that this kind of price for us is not possible yet, because we have a huge lack of culture, even with the devotees, about ahimsa milk or cow protection milk. We are selling our milk for about €2, and it's the maximum we can sell it now. But of course, we are still working on increase the culture to the devotees also of the importance of this kind of milk. But for us, it's yet difficult we have lack of milk. We have milk that are remaining sometimes because they say that €2 is expensive.
That's why I say you can have as much cow protection milk as you're willing to pay for it. But if you're paying €2 per litre, you're asking someone else to pay for your milk. Because the cost is the same. It costs you €3.50 per litre to produce. So if you're not paying that, then the other donors are enabling you to get your milk at a subsidised price. So it's a practical thing. I was at a manor, and they were struggling with the idea of paying £3. They don't pay £3, they pay £1.50. What's the current price? £1.80. So they're kind of moving in the right direction. But it's not, they'll look at your whole books. Hang on, you're raising all this money. Why are you charging us? It's the natural management struggles. It's find the right balance. But if you're selling it elsewhere, then you have to think, well, why should I subsidise this milk? They could pay the price. So you have to put a practical shape on it. And I'd see around kind of thought maybe only 7% of devotees will pay the real price because it's so high. But that's the price. You can put all the maths together, work it out yourself in Villa Vrindavan. If you put a labour cost on everything that's done, what does that milk come to produce? And that's the price that people should have in their mind. This is what it costs to produce. So it's a struggle. But out there's thousands and thousands of people who will pay that price for the milk if they can get it. So as I'm saying, we're producing milk that even we don't want. But the people out there, they want it, because they value, they want to drink milk from protected cows. But we're so familiar with it, we're so used to drinking milk from the marketplace and offering it to Krishna, that sometimes we forget to prioritise drinking milk from our own cows and paying the price for it.
Isn't it also true that the milk in the supermarket is artificial? It's the actual price that we're competing against. You can pick up a litre of milk for 2 litres actually in farm foods for £1. So that's artificial, isn't it? Because the government is subsidising and bringing the price down.
I don't think it's done that. I think there's loss-making leaders. So where the supermarkets are doing it, farmers are getting 25p a litre. So there is 25p somewhere in the processing system. So obviously milk's a staple, so they want you to get it cheap, so you come into a supermarket and buy everything else at the price that they have. So that may well be a factor.
Is it just the milk or other byproducts as well, like meat products like cheese and other sweets we can do? Or is there any process for that?
I mean, you can do any milk product. I mean, every country's got their own regional varieties of things. You can do whatever you want to do with it. But still, your basic price is £3.50 a litre. If you make paneer, what is it, 7 litres of milk to make 1 kilo of paneer? So you're talking about 7 times 350, 20, 21, 26 pounds worth of milk to produce a kilo of paneer. So you can do it. If you turn it to cheese, then yes, you can do all kinds of things. We used to, at the manor that they sell cow's urine. And we distill it so it kind of keeps its potency, but doesn't kind of become more ammonia smelling. And we were selling it at £28 a litre. So that cow's urine was more valuable than whiskey. and so there's a massive market out there. I mean, I know in India they're doing this whole institutions looking at making products from the cow that's not milk based to try and get farmers to keep their cows for their dung and their urine. So there are many things and this is why this needs to be in the hands of Vaishyas who can turn the products of the cow into return, into some kind of financial return. The cows are beautiful. They want to give you milk, but at the same time to protect them, we want to kind of create an economic environment around. I mean, we hear that if you've got cows, you're wealthy. We haven't quite shown that. Actually, when we did a study in Gen, the economic kind of paucity was very clear. Most of our farms don't really have a strong economic model. So make a big, massive business plan. Show how the cows are making so much wealth. So we want to have more cows to kind of, have more of that wealth. So it requires entrepreneurship and packaging and all the things that advisors get their heads into. So that we can see. I mean, even in Scotland, 18% of Glasgow are vegan. How many of those are fundamentalists, and how many of those are just waiting for the right milk to come available? It's a huge, massive, massive market. I mean, I saw that there was when I was at the airport, I think Harrods was selling a little piece of cheese, and the price of selling that cheese that could just have easily been cow protection cheese, because the prices are very similar. So you just got to package it and market it as and obviously it's wise your domain. Anything else?
Are you enthused by the progress we're making in ISKCON? Or are we
no. It's like when we talk in breakfast. If you go to the GBC and say, can you do this, they'll say they can't do it, they're so busy, they're like, they're just spread so thin. If you say, I would like to do this, and it's all well thought out, can you give me a blessing? They'll say, go ahead. So what the ministry is working on now is practical shape to this. If you do the study, you'll think, actually, we can do this. We can produce milk from protected cows sustainably. We have a plan for it. Obviously, emergencies always come along, but you're clear about it yourself. So yes, it can be done. The evidence shows it can be done. The kind of there's so much evidence to show it can be done, but do it properly. Don't just get a cow out of a whim. Think about it very clearly. When Krishna lost his cows from Lord Brahma, I think it was in the Brahma Purana, he said, well, now how can I maintain myself? So it wasn't that Krishna just had cows, there was a real financial connection between the cows and systems. So we have to keep that in mind all the time. How much longer we got left?
30 seconds. 11 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you speak a little bit about the difference between a temple, Goshala, and a private enterprise? Like, what are the sort of practical and also philosophical considerations?
For what I've seen, for me personally, I think the Goshala model is likely to be more sustainable because the society itself is a sustainable society. The Hare Krishna communities will keep going on, so there's a structure there. I've seen it many times. There are householders, they take it up out of a kind of sentiment, we'll do cow protection, I heard a lecture about it, I'm going to get some cows. But they're not thinking about, well, what happens when they're finished, when they retire? What happened to that herd then? Maybe their children will take it up, and if they have a model like that, then that's a very good thing. So you have to think about that. What happens next? When my inspiration is finished and I want to become a sannyasi or whatever it is, or to give up all kind of material life, what happens to the herd? So many times they come, can I give you my cows? All around Europe there's stories like that, and you hear similar things. So again, as long as it's done responsibly, with proper thinking, and answer this question: what happens when you retire? Where are these going to cow? What is the economic model that's going to maintain these cows for the rest of their lives? Who's going to do that? What kind of financial structure are you giving to give them that protection? There has to be something higher than the individuals, whatever that may be, to keep that continuum. Otherwise, you're kind of you're dumping your responsibility onto the society. So it's a common question: what will you do with this herd when you die? So there's sometimes it's a very important question to ask. Well, who's going to inherit this legacy?
I guess possible problem that could arise from that is that you have a temple that's now engaged in like a business model, rather than just a cow protection. You're providing milk products for devotees. You're now involved in a big business.
Well, actually, people said many things about what Prabhupada wanted. When I did a simple study of Prabhupada's letters, I found at least 4 different things that he enthusiastically endorsed. He talked about the family having their own little cows for self-sufficiency. He said New Vrindavan is a place for the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas and sannyasis, a monastic kind of model where they're growing their own food. He talks about the Indian villages where they would sell ghee and make a living. Then he talks to the Sumati Maharaj. He said, why don't the Marwari and Gujarati community open massive goshalas with huge pasturing grounds? So therefore, what I read about this is that Srila Prabhupada was excited about cow protection, but it has to have a practical shape. So you may have goshalas around temples that are kind of more focused on this, for example, Geethanari is like that. They're looking at the bigger picture. They want to provide milk for the whole of the northeast of America. Very important. So maybe just taking care of their own individual community. So I don't think you're going to have one model. You may have many different models based on the inspiration of the individual, but the principles are the same. How are you going to sustain that? And again, from a leadership perspective, how are we going to cater to the needs, the milk requirements of our own devotee community? At least we should be trying to meet that. Prabhupada said that we are ISKCON, a society independent of the rest of society. Who is trying to fulfill that obligation that Srila Prabhupada said for us about self-sufficiency? So there'll be different models about it, but as long as it's done properly with the proper planning, then they can all be successful in different flavors.
Do we have in ISKCON any systematical program?
A systematical program?
No, sorry. Any systematical preaching program? How to get people more appreciate cows? And how to make people more relate to the cows? Because even amongst the devotees, sometimes the devotees doesn't have a relationship with cows. So I would like to ask them.
Well, I think every time a devotee speaks something philosophically, he usually mentions cow in one way or the other, so people are hearing it all the time. But what we don't have is practical shape. I mean, those communities that have cows, they experience something wonderful. We were hearing, like I was saying, that in America, there's a farmer who's hiring out, hugging his cow and getting $550 an hour or something like that. So when people do hug a cow, they feel something. People go in and milk a cow, there's something very, very satisfactory about it. When someone's driving an ox, or even a bullock cart, there's a change in you. Somebody even said that, an Ayurvedic doctor said, if you're suffering from depression, if you smell cow dung, it helps relieve that depression. So there's so many wonderful practical things. But is there anything? No. But the farmers that have cows, they usually are quite, ready to present these things, as long as they understand them. So, more could be done. But again, give these things practical shape. We're almost finished with time.
Yeah, in Vrindavan I used to do, we start doing 1 year ago more or less. Every Sunday we are doing the Go Puja for guests. And it starts very, very small, but now it's a kind of big event during Sunday feast. And sometimes when the weather doesn't permit us to do it, then people from outside, they came and they blame us, like, what about the Go Puja? Why you didn't do the Go Puja today? And it increased a lot the attraction from, not just from the devotees, not all of course, but from many devotees, but also from visitors to cows and the cow protection project.
Yeah, the people love the cows.
They love. And they feed them and they pet. So.
Pradeep, how much money do you make a year from feeding grass?
60,000 pounds.
16,000 pounds. The one part of the farm cuts the grass, bundles it, and they sell it at £2 a bundle. And the people come there, their children grab that grass, they go running down the corridor to feed the cows, and it's giving £15,000 worth of income just by feeding grass.
60,000.
60,000. Woo! 60,000 pounds from just feeding grass.
We just got, for Janmashtami, we got 15,000 pounds.
Wow. This is why it needs to be in the Vaishya domain. So a non-Vaishya would say, we'll just give people grass, they can feed the cow. A Vaishya will think, how can I turn grass into economy? And people will love it. They would love to give you £2, they'll enjoy the experience of feeding the cow, the cows will be happy. £60,000 from grass.
We are growing 4 different varieties of grass. We dedicated 4 acres just for growing cow feed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
Shyamasundar Prabhu K.
Jai.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Yes, so we're back. There's a little break now, 15 minutes. 15? Is it the program says 10 or 15? 15. Okay. What does it say in your program? Have you checked it? The relationship between cow protection and restaurants. So that's where we go next. Okay? So thank you very much. Please enjoy your break.
Yes.